Hello everybody and welcome to another tier list here on the channel. As I said, before we start Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, which is Fire Emblem 4, I want to make a tier list of Fire Emblem 3. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. Now, a few things to mention before we get started here. This tier list was a little bit different. I think there's only been one made on tierlistmaker.com. I don't really know. As you can see here on the left, instead of S tier and stuff, there's some personalized tiers, which is kind of funny. I actually don't mind this so much. God, good, great, okay, and not recommended, as you can see. So I'm going to use these, except I don't understand why good is above great. It doesn't really seem to make much sense to me, so we're just going to change great and good. Now, where I come from, great is greater than good, but maybe not where this person comes from. In any case, this will work pretty much the same way, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to change it up a little bit. As always, this tier list, I've only completed the game once, so this tier list is not a concrete thing at all. If you have any opinions, feel free to put them in the comments. This is mostly just for my own retrospective, if I ever want to come back and think about this game or anything. But without further ado, I have my already created tier list next to me. So, all right, let's start with Abel. Abel, I have an okay. I think paladins in general in this game are actually just kind of weak because there's a lot of indoor maps. There's also a lot of early Pegasus Knights you can get, and they're just better paladins. Abel's a pre-promote you get fairly late. I think you can totally use him, and he's probably fairly solid. But like a lot of these units, I think he's just okay. I think is the best way to put him. Aaron, I'm going to put okay as well. Aaron's kind of weird because usually Jagans are, one of the best units in the game, and Aaron is a Jagan, but you get serious so quickly, along with characters like Agma, Paula, Katria. There's so many early great characters that the Jagan of this game really isn't that great. He's still okay, he's still useful, but I don't think he's fantastic or anything. Then we have Astrum, who I'm going to be putting in good. I think Astrum's really solid. There's a few different... I guess there's only two heroes in the game, but when you consider the fact that Agma and Nevere are so close to promoting, there's a lot of different hero utility you can get. I like heroes quite a bit in this game. Swords are good. And there's a lot of indoor chapters where they can shine, where you're better units like the Pegasus Knights aren't quite as good. So I think Astrum is quite a good character. Maybe should be great. I don't know, but I think he's solid. What about Banto and good as well? I think Banto is solid in this game. Basically all the same stuff that he can do in Fire Emblem 1. The ability to use the Firestone makes him just an absolute beast in the mid game. I think he's a solid unit. Next up, we have Boa. This is the other thing I want to mention. I don't really know why Boa is here because obviously he's not a recruitable character in the game. There's some other characters here that are also not recruitable. This tier list also does not include the final 4 recruitable units. That's Lena, Maria, two other people, Elise and no, I already said Maria, Nina. Not that I really would be able to rate them because they're basically non-units, but there's some units on here that are a little funky. Also, there's no names to the faces, so if I miss anyone or anything, or this tier list is missing anyone, let me know. But yeah. Anyways, next up we have not Katria, Seda or Shida. It's weird to put a Pegasus Knight considering how good they are in good and not in great or potentially God, but she is, along with S. So there's Katria, Paula, and Minerva, all totally busted units, and Shida unfortunately just does the same thing and is recruited pretty late. I will say there are a lot of promotion items for Pegasus Knights in this game, so you totally can promote her without issue. But she's got kind of the same problems the Pegasus Knights always have, where she's frail. It's not a big deal because they're such a good class, but again, considering the fact that you already have 3 amazing ones before you recruit her, I don't think she's actually that great, but I do think she's still, good. Next up we have, I think this is Caesar. I don't really know. I don't think he's in the game. But then after that we have Cain. We'll put Cain right next to Abel. Ooh, probably better than Abel just because he recruited earlier. I like Cain. He's one of these sort of pre-promotes, but not really pre-promotes in the game because he comes at a really high level and you can basically promote him immediately, which is nice. But, despite the fact that in my playthrough I was planning on promoting him, I just never did. Again, this is a game that's most combat units get overshadowed by much stronger units throughout basically the entire game. So I think he's okay. I think you can totally promote him and do good stuff with him, but I don't think he's that fantastic. Then we have Castor, another unit that you can basically promote immediately. I like Castor maybe a little bit more than I should. I do have a soft spot for him, but he's recruited not too late. Again, he's really easy to promote. He's definitely the best use of an Orion's Bolt. He's got really good strength, and there is a decent amount of effective damage stuff in the game because you fight a lot of wyverns. So having a unit like Castor or Gordon, which we'll talk about later, of course, is actually fairly useful early on, even though George is, of course, much stronger later on. But I think Castor's good. I think he's a solid unit. Next we have Katria, definitely the first of the god units. Katria is amazing, you know, slightly worse than Paula, of course, but she's recruited extremely early. She's an amazing class. She has amazing bases and amazing growth. So there's really nothing to not like about her. She's amazing. So easy god for her, I think. Next up we have Cecile, I think is her name. So it's funny, you get 3 Cavaliers right off the bat. And I thought, like in most Fire Emblem games, I was going to choose to train 1 or probably 2 of these, and they were going to be 2 of my really strong units throughout the game. I did train Cecile. Not only did I train her, but I also gave her the Star Shards to basically make it so that strength, speed, and skill were just capped. Her HP sucked, but still. And I basically never deployed her after that point. Now, part of that was that I just kept forgetting, but part of it as well is that the class just isn't that fantastic in the game, and there's so many other units to be bringing in, so much other utility. I do still think she's good, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. I did not train, I believe it's Luke and then Roddy, something like that. I don't know which is the best. I think one of these, I think Cecile's actually probably the worst. I think one of these has better defense and HP. Probably train them. I do think they're good units. Maybe they're better than I'm giving them credit for, but given that I trained her so much and I just never wound up deploying her, and again, how tough it was to actually use characters like Abel and the problem is, this is a good way to describe it. If you're playing on a map where you can be unmounted, your Pegasus Knights and your Wyverns are just going to destroy everything. And if you're playing on a map where you can't mount, then your heroes are just going to destroy everything. So there's really no room where Paladins would be that fantastic. Now they're still good, but they're not nearly as good as these other 2 units in these other 2 specific situations, which is basically the entire game. So that's the way I look at it, at least. This is Dolph or Macellan or whatever his name is. I don't think he's in the game. Then we have Drog, who actually did rank, but now I can't remember if he's in the game. I put him in okay, although I can't remember if he's in the game or not. He's just a starting armor. If he's in the game, then I think okay is a reasonable place to put him. I honestly don't know who this is. At first I ranked this as George, but this is not George. So I don't know. Then we have Est. I think Est also belongs in okay. Again, you just have so many. You have 4 other units of the same class that come before her. I guess if you desperately still need a Wyvern by the time Est comes around, but it's so late in the game, and you're gonna have so many other pre-promotes and strong units to use. There's really not much use for her, in my opinion. Then we have Gordon. I actually have Gordon in good, which is kind of weird because he's not that amazing of a character, but he comes a decent level with decent stats. And again, I think bow utility early is really nice. The ability to shoot a lot of wyverns that you have to fight, and you can promote him pretty easily. Again, I think Castor's the better promotion option, but you can totally promote Gordon and he'll be a solid unit throughout the game. So I think good is a pretty reasonable place to put him. Then we have George. I like George a lot, not to the point where I'd put him in God, but yeah, George's stats are just awesome. He comes with the Parthia, so we can use it immediately. Part of this is just because in my particular playthrough, I just deployed George on like every single chapter. He won't blow you away or anything, but he'll probably be stronger or as strong as Castor and Gordon and doesn't require anything of you. So I think great is a pretty decent place for George. Next up, we have Julian. I have Julian just behind George. Honestly, he can be wherever he wants. Thief utility is awesome. I'm also just going to go ahead and put Rickard right next to him as well. I used Julian during my playthrough. He is better than Rickard, but really if one dies, the other one's amazing. They're both awesome. Thieves in this game are extremely useful, maybe even to the point where they should be in God tier, but you can buy door keys and chest keys, so I don't think they're as necessary as some of these other units, but they are really good. Next up, we have Linda, who I actually do have in great. I like Linda quite a bit. Obviously, she was a little bit buffed in our playthrough, but the thing is, what I did with the Star Shards, you can also do. If you just give her the plus 50% strength Star Shard and train her, she's going to be busted. And I really like her because not only does she have Nosferatu and Aura, which only she can use, not Nosferatu, but only females can use it. But she just recruited really early, so she's the easiest mage to train. She also has a good weapon rank, which means that she can use staves really effectively. Yeah, I just like Linda quite a bit. I like the early mage. I like the fact that even though her magic growth is really awful and her bases as well, you can actually fix that with the Star Shards, so I like her a lot. Next up, we have Melicia, I think. Now, Melicia died for me, but I'm still going to put her really high up. She's just awesome. Staves in this game are busted, so the ability to use them is really beneficial. She's also the only person that can use the hammer and staff, and I think also maybe the thief staff. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, she's also your first healer. Obviously, in our playthrough, I used Yamina and not her, but that's just because she died. I still think she's amazing. I'm also just going to go ahead and put Yamina right next to her. Obviously, she's slightly worse because she can't use some of the specific staves to Milicia, but she can still use all the other staves, and she's still awesome. So maybe she should be lower, but I think just staff utility in this game's awesome. Then we have Marth. I don't really know where to rank Marth. I put a lot of effort into making Marth fantastic, and he was, but a lot of that was artificial means through like basically giving him every stat booster. I'm gonna put him at the top of great instead of putting him in God, just because his class does hold him back. I just hit this, sorry. And I don't think he's as important for like the end of the game, for example, as Marth is in like the first game where I said he was the best character. And I think there's definitely some characters now in Fire Emblem that are better than him. So I think the top of great is pretty reasonable. Then we have Mathis. I'll put Mathis in not recommended, mostly because he's just a meme. I just talked about how I don't like Cavaliers very much, and Mathis is just worse than all the Cavaliers I just mentioned. So pretty easy to just put him in not recommended. Then we have Merrick. Merrick, I think, is a solid good. Where do I have him? I have him like right here. He's just really worse Linda, to be honest. He's really easy to promote, which I love. But yeah, he's just kind of worse Linda because he comes later. Obviously, Excalibur's awesome, and he's still a really useful unit, but I don't think he's really great because I don't think he's as good as Linda. But yeah, I think he's a solid unit. Then we have Midia. Midia died for me, but I think just at the bottom of okay. Again, all the same problems as a Paladin. She's also just recruited so late. I don't want to put her in not recommended because a unit with her kind of stats can still give you some combat. So I don't necessarily like not recommend using her if you need, you know, some fill-in, but yeah, not a very good unit. Then we have Minerva. I think Minerva's awesome. I'm going to shove her in great. Maybe she should be in God, but I just think Katria and Paula are so much better. But Minerva's amazing. She has really, really good bases. You don't have to worry about promoting her, training her, whatever. She has good growths as well. Maybe she should even be in God, to be honest. I don't know. Minerva in the middle of great, maybe actually understating her, to be honest, because she is awesome. But again, I think Katria and Paula are a little bit better. So, but she's great. Then we have Nevere. I have Nevere just behind Merrick. Again, this is another one of those units with really solid bases, and he's just about level 10 when you get him. So he's basically a pre-promote. I think heroes are really good in this game, and I think he's pretty darn strong. So I think he's good. Then we have the better mercenary, Agma. I'm going to put him at the bottom of great. I do think he's great. He's recruited extremely early with extremely high stats. Not extremely high stats, but solid stats. You can promote him really early and get a really solid hero. Yeah, I just think Agma is a really great unit. Then we have Paula. Paula is awesome. If it weren't for another unit, she's basically the best unit in this game. She's recruited extremely early. She has extremely strong bases. Her speed is such that her low speed growth doesn't really matter. Sorry, her base speed. And you can also fix that with star shards. She's just amazing. She has a good HP growth too. She's an amazing unit. Then we have Fina, who I did put at number 1. Really, you can rank dancers wherever you want. She does have the slight utility of combat, but that won't really matter at all. Yeah, I don't know. Dancers are busted. You know, this is the first dancer. I usually put dancers a little bit lower, so maybe she belongs over here, but you can really put her wherever you want. She's a god tier unit. She's amazing. Then we have Rad, I think, who's not in this game. At least I'm pretty sure. Then we have Ryan. I'm gonna put Ryan in not recommended. He's just a worse Gordon, and Gordon is good, but not that good. So then we have Roshi. Roshi, again, I think it's hard to put in not recommended just because she does just give you some decent stats, even though it's really late in the game, but I think it's hard to rank her higher than okay. Then we have Samson. I had trouble ranking Samson because he just recruited really late, but he is really solid, so I decided to just put him in good. Just right here. Again, I think he's just a good unit. I think he's just solid. This isn't cutting off, is it? Let me check my recording. No, actually. Okay, perfect. In fact, I could have zoomed in a little bit more. But yeah, Samson, he's just recruited a bit late, but his stats are all solid, and you know, he's a good unit. Then we have Samto, who I have at the top of okay, just because I like mercenaries quite a bit, and he's recruited early enough to where I think he is okay, but really he's just a worse Nevere because he's lower level. But yeah, he's okay. Then I have Shima, also, again, just kind of a pile of stats, so it's hard to say that she's really like that bad, but not a spectacular unit. Then I have Sirius, who, if you watch my playthrough, you know, got crit really early for us, but that doesn't mean that I think he's a bad unit. I do think he's a super busted unit. I mentioned how I don't think that paladins are that fantastic, but the stats that he gives you for as early as you recruit him is just ridiculous. Even if maybe by the end of the game he isn't going to be your strongest unit. Then I have Tiki. I really like Tiki. In fact, by the end of the game, she was basically soloing everything. I do think that she requires a little bit of effort from you, and she's recruited a bit late. That's why I have her lower than these other units in God tier. But by the end of the game, she is, or at least was, like my strongest unit. She couldn't be affected by magic. She had effective damage against all the Maniketes. She's just insanely strong. So I like Tiki quite a bit. But again, just because she recruited later and the effort it takes to train her, I have her at the bottom of God, but still a God nonetheless. And I think this is Sedgar, again, not in the game. I actually have Warren at the bottom of okay, which seems a little bit weird considering how high I have Gordon, because they kind of do the same thing. I just don't like Warden. Whatever, Warren. He's not a very good unit. Put him down there. Then we have Wendell. Wendell's another one of those. I kind of put him next to Minerva, one of those just great units. He's just good. Gives you staff utility, gives you some combat with magic. Just a solid unit. Hard to argue with that. Then we have Zane. Zane, just like in the first game, does not take the HP of the person that he's transforming into. So unless you want to remedy that with like robes, it means you're only going to get so much utility out of him. I will admit I may be sleeping on Zane a bit, but you can't make him into a dancer, which obviously he'd be busted. I still have him at the bottom of good. I didn't use him at all. He may be way better than I'm giving him credit. I will admit that, but I don't really find him that useful. And then Ubello, I'm at the bottom of good as well. Just another like magic user. I kind of like magic users in this game because he can get weapon level as a mage and then promote and then use good staves. I think that's useful. I do think he's quite a bit worse than Merrick and Linda in that regard, but I think he's still, an okay unit. Or sorry, I should say good unit, because if he's an okay unit, then he'd be lower. Maybe he should be. I don't know. He's recruited early. I like that. Yeah, anyways, this is my tier list. As always, and as I said at the beginning of the video, this is not concrete. I only played the game once. But yeah. If you agree, if you disagree, feel free to let me know. Oh wow, this was actually kind of, yeah, I actually should have zoomed in a little bit more, huh? Oh well, hopefully that wasn't too annoying to watch. But yeah, so next up, I'll probably be coming out with a tier list of all the games like I said I was going to do, and then after that we'll start genealogy. So as always, thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.